morning, everybody. I am Lord Kalbardr from the Barony of the Osprey on the southern coast of Meridies. Companion of the Meridian Cross, companion of the Argent Lamp Osprey, and Reaper. Now, for those of you in Atlantia, you probably have no clue what some of those words mean, and that's perfectly okay. It's just my fancy awards that make me sound way cooler than I actually am. But, so today I'd like to thank the Atlantian University for allowing me to come and teach, and me, a lowly Meridian, to teach at your university. This is a lot of fun. I enjoy doing online classes like this, and I enjoy being able to spread the knowledge I have out to the greater populace. So today we're going to be covering a class, this is one of my How to Play series on Alquerque or Kirk. So this is a fairly simple game. Generally with my How to Plays, I have a guest on and we play the game together. However, my guest is currently still asleep. Yeah, she had a bad night. So we will soldier on without her. Fortunately, the version that I'll be playing live here does have a computer-based opponent. I'll probably do some by myself, sort of playing, so we can talk through some of the mechanics. But after that, I'll play some. I did send the link out to everyone, but I will also include it in the chat. Oh, bam. There we go. There's a link to the online version we'll be playing a little later. So, I did introductions. I thanked people. Cool. As we're going, if you have any questions, please drop them in the chat, and I will throw them up on the screen, and we'll talk about them. But this is a fairly simple game, so I don't expect a whole lot of questions, frankly. I chose this one. So I do games classes. This is, I think, number 20-ish I've got in my repertoire now. And this is just another one I hadn't done yet, so I threw it up. I enjoy having deadlines, so when the Atlantian University popped up and said, hey, we're looking for classes, I was like, oh, here, sure. Let me do these two that I haven't taught yet. So it's there. So Alquerque is the topic of the day. Let me share my screen and get this popped up real quick. Like, one moment. I should have had this prepped ahead of time. I'm sorry. There we go. Cool. All right. Bit of a caveat, you'll see SCI 0000 on this screen. That is the Royal University of Meridies number. Obviously, it's 000 is not the number. This has not been a certified class yet. I haven't sent it to the registrar to get their little number tagged on it, but if it looks weird. Also, all of you from Atlantia should have got this handout, but it will also be included in the class description and in my Facebook event as well, if you can't find it. So, Alquerque is the Spanish name, has roots dating back to the famous rooftop casino at the Temple of Kurna. Now, the Temple of Kurna is a fun topic of mine. I am actually working on a class or a sort of project of the Casino of Kurna, because anybody who's done any kind of games research knows about this temple and knows about this rooftop. And I swear that was the most popular place in Egypt for games. I don't know what all games played up there. I found a bunch of them, but that was a popular rooftop. But if that's the case, it does date this game back to about 1400 BCE. Although then the game was probably called Kirk, and we'll kind of go through the thing here. So, or some variation of that. Again, the names of these games vary a lot. Generally, when I'm teaching a class, especially how to play, it focuses more on the mechanics in the game than it does the history. I use the more common name. Alquerque is the more common name, which is the later period name. But Kirk is another one that I found a lot of. Actually, I found more common online as Kirk than I do with Alquerque, probably because of the misspelling of Albuquerque. Google likes to try to autocorrect that a lot, so people may have started using Kirk because it was easier to type out, I guess. The Kirk or some version of a game was being played since about 1400. About 2,000 years after that, the game was mentioned in an Arabic writing, Kitab al-Laghani, that it was sort of just a vague mention, but it talked about a game like Kirk, and I think it called it, it was a variation of spelling of Kirk, probably the more Arabic spelling of it, but same idea. And then 100 years later, when the Moors invaded Spain, 700-ish CE, they brought the game with them under the name Alquerque. Now, I would guess that the Moors calling it Alquerque, and then the Spanish speaking people heard that and translated it into Alquerque. I am not a language major, but that makes sense. Like I could hear that in my head where those could get butchered from one language to another, which is probably where the Alquerque name came from. I could be wrong on that. Again, the historical significance of these is not always my sort of focus when I'm looking at games. However, this was also documented in Alfonso X's manuscript. Again, anybody who's ever done games research knows who Alfonso X is. But those of you who don't, basically he was a king in Spain that was all about trying to enlighten the people of Spain and took a whole bunch of texts from various sources that they couldn't read because they weren't in Castilian at the time, and translated them and sent them out to his people. Games was one of them. So there was a famous manuscript by Alfonso X that is probably one of the best documented sources of games in a single spot from period. However, the exception or the sort of warning I like to give is there were some suppositions made by them and some changes were made because of the translation that I don't think translated correctly. When I read back through some of the rules and sort of translating rules from then to now, I don't think all of them really translated right, but it gets them close enough. Noun marker. Right, so yeah, so Simon says, happened a lot with Arabic terms when they entered Europe through Spain. And the noun marker Al became part of the name in Spanish and Latin, correct? Yeah, so Alquerque, yeah. Same thing, yep, that was my thought too. Thank you for that. All right, so looking at Alquerque, I'm going to call it Alquerque for the rest of the class just so it's easier. I always like to cover board materials first. So to make this game yourself, it is literally simple. You need a 5x5 grid. This is a game that's played on the dots and intersections, not on the spaces. So it's a 4x4 grid, but a 5x5 point board. So this is interesting. So games like Go and Alquerque and Nine Men's Moors, things like that, are played on the intersections, whereas checkers, chess, things like that are played on the spaces. That's another sort of, I guess, research thing we could look at is when did games change from using the intersections to the spaces? Because like we all would see a board and like, oh, we should use the spaces. That makes the most sense. More of the earlier period games used the dots than they did the spaces, which is interesting. So you also need 12 black stones and 12 white stones. Now you can use any color stones you want. Most of my games I use black and white stones because that is my personal color, but also is the colors of Meridies. And then of course the board layout there as shown. Now, when I describe this game to people, I describe it as checkers plus the peg game from Cracker Barrel. And what's bad is anybody in the South knows what I'm talking about, so those of you at Atlantia may not recognize that reference. But the little triangle peg game where you try to jump and get the most of the pieces off. This is very similar to this game, and it's because of the forced movement. Now, also, not a huge fan of this game, actually. I don't like games that have forced movement or have forced moves because it takes away some of the skill on my side, or maybe it's because I'm terrible at them. Oh, good. So you guys do have Cracker Barrels in Atlantia. Excellent. I forget when I teach games outside of the rural South that some of the references may not translate as well. I've traveled a lot. It's like I've lived in New Jersey and places, so like I'm familiar with other cultures, but you know, most of my bringing up was down here. Sorry, it's really early, guys. I'm still asleep. All right, so like I said, I'm not a big fan of this game, but I do enjoy teaching it, and there is some strategy to be learned from forced movement games, and that's part of the strategy you have to look at. The strategy is not based on movement; it's based on making your opponent make a move. So that's really, you have to sort of change how you look at the game. Now, another caveat. Now, these are the first set of rules here I'm presenting are the Alfonso's rules. The problem is they're incomplete, and they don't really have all the stuff you're going to need to play the game. So Bell, when he rewrote it into his book, translated and reprinted them, but also added some suggested rules that makes the game playable. And I'll kind of talk about that as we go through that. Let me check on the comments here, see things. Okay, I'm sorry. Atlantia is still the South, according to Her Excellency. My apologies. I did not mean to accuse you of being from the North. I promise. That's funny. You know, that's one of the problems with live streams is you say a thing like that and then it's lives in infamy. And now I'm gonna be the South shamer forever. I have struck a nerve with the Atlanteans today. I love it. Oh, now, and now there's a fight. Awesome, cool. You guys can argue over where Atlantia is. It's funny. All right, so the game starts with 12 white and I'm gonna use white and black because it's easier. 12 white on one side, 12 black on the other, with the center intersection being left open. So this really matters who goes first as well. Traditionally, the player on the top goes first. And I say top if we're looking at the board, you know, like this, like you'll see on my when I do the screen share for the game in a minute. But if we look at sort of some of the other games that are like this, that are I'm not gonna call force movement, but like games that are harder or easier depending on your look. Go is a good example. The more experienced player will go first or last, depending on which is more advantageous. So you want the less experienced player to have the advantage, if there is an advantage to be gained. In this case, the player going first has a disadvantage. In my opinion, I could be wrong on that. From my play, I've lost both directions pretty well, so I haven't found an advantage either side, frankly. All right, the pieces move along the points, or along the lines from point to point, which does limit their movement. Then, so if you see that the each sort of quadrant here has lines to the middle, but then not lines across. So there is some limited movement. Even else who's done Morris games will recognize this. This is essentially a Morris board, just expanded slightly, or at least a 3-man Morris board, then triple or quadrupled. All right, if the adjacent space is occupied by the enemy piece, and the piece beyond it is occupied, the player must jump that piece and move in the board. Or it's unoccupied. That's actually wrong. Piece beyond it is unoccupied. Yeah. The action is continued if there are any additional jumps available from that same piece. If the player does not jump, and this is a weird rule, this is sort of an odd rule here. If the space is open, you have to jump. If you choose not to jump or forget to jump or sort of miss the opportunity, then the other player actually can declare a huff, and that piece is then removed from the board. So the intention is you're supposed to jump. If you can jump, you can, and remove the piece, you have to, and that's it. Now, if you'll notice this, and I'll highlight it here, that is the entirety of the rules from Alfonso's book. That's it. Now, there are some extra things that are missing from that we'll talk about in a second. But the important part you get from Alfonso is there are 24 pieces, 12 and 12, and 25 spaces. Pieces move along the lines, and if a space is available beyond this piece, you can jump it. And if there are multiple spaces, you can keep jumping in a row. Then you can keep jumping, and that you have to jump if you can. Or if your opponent notices you did not, then you actually lose your own piece. All right. Now, if we look at Bell's suggested rules, and I've added some commentary to these as well. So the suggested rule is going to be the top part, and then my commentary is in the bullet. All right. So pieces can only move forward, so away from the player, or side to side. So this is interesting. So this if you look at like checkers is a good example of this. Pieces can only move up; they cannot move back until they hit the end. I didn't like this when I first thought about it, and I've played it a couple times, and I've tried it both ways. There is some stalled movement mid game where you're very limited, but it does make the game go faster and does force more movement. Again, I think in this game we don't need more force movement. So that would be one that I wouldn't use. Pieces cannot return to a point that they've been on before. Again, that's forcing movement into potentially painting yourself into a corner. It would also be very difficult to keep track of on a board. I cannot think of a good way to do that. Now, I think maybe the intention of this is that you can't go back to the space you were just on. So, like, you can't go boop, 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 back and forth. That may be what they meant by this. We can sort of, and I don't disagree with that, because then again you're sort of preventing a stalemate. However, in trying that, because I tried that actual tactic when I was playing against Kisa, it didn't actually give me an advantage at all. It literally just took more time, and she was able to just sort of continue to push me down into a hole. And once you're in that, like, there's really no way getting out of it. A piece that reaches the back line can only move by jumping over an enemy piece. So this sort of connects to the first rule up here, that as you move forward, the only way you can move backwards is to jump. So basically, you get your pieces to the back line and then push things into them, and then jump back over them, which will then, allow you to move back. Again, I don't think that's totally necessary. Now, here's the rule that is very important that Alfonso missed. So you'll notice in the Alfonso rules, it talks about how to play, but not about how to win. Now, this is something you see in a lot of period games, that there are chunks missing. We can only assume there's chunks missing because it was a rule they all knew about. So, for instance, if you're sitting down to play checkers, I don't have to explain to you how to play checkers. You, as most people know how to play checkers, or at least have some sort of idea of playing checkers. So, do we still have the rule book? Maybe not. So, thing that it missed was how to win. Okay, so we can assume, looking at a board, that if the object is to jump over pieces, right, then the goal is to remove all the pieces. So it didn't include it because that's extra writing, and because they were writing this by hand and translating this by hand, they chose to leave that off. Again, that's my supposition, but at least makes logical sense. And yeah, so Simon agrees with me. I think it's all about avoiding the back and forth, the sort of the stalemate movement for most of these rules. I agree with that. All right, so looking at the win condition, this is the only rule that I think is needed if you're writing a complete set of rules. Alfonso's rules have most of it. They don't have the win condition of one player loses when all pieces are removed. It's important to say this, and I this is a caveat to my earlier caveats. Now, if you're playing a game, there are rules. Rules are important. Rules are needed to be agreed upon so that all players are equal. Everybody knows what they're doing. If you don't like these rules, or you don't like a rule because it doesn't work for you, it doesn't work for you for people you play with, change it. There are a lot of rules we play with in Meridiers that are common in Meridiers. Gluckhouse is a good example. When Master Joffrey teaches Gluckhouse, there's a space that's missing off the board because of one period example or some period examples, and he chose not to put it on his board because that's the one he liked the best, and he made up a rule for it. And when I played slightly differently. I add the 4 to the board. I don't add to the board, but if it's rolled, it does something different. That's one of those variant rules you can add. The important part about games is that you and your opponent agree, or you and your opponents agree on what the rules are up front. So I don't like having any supposed rules. So I like how when I publish a game or I teach a game, I teach, here's the rules I'm playing by, here's the rules we're playing by in this game setting. And it's good to be sort of agree on that up front. So in this case, when one player's lost all of their pieces, or when a player cannot move any of his pieces, and that's another important part, that player loses. I have not been able to get to a point where I could not move a piece. It is possible. I've seen it be a thing, but I haven't gotten to a point where I could do that. The other reason I add this as the important rule is that, like in Nyman's Morris, it's not to the last piece, it's to when you're down to less than 3. So it's important to have that distinction of what's the win condition here. Because like with Nyman's Morris, you would literally just be adding 4 or 5 extra turns for no reason, because once you're down to a certain point, you cannot win. You can do the same thing with this game, in that when you're down to a certain number of pieces, 2, 3, whatever, it is difficult to win. It is not impossible, however. So playing to 0, it makes the most sense. All right, a couple of resources here. So there's the resource for Alfonso's games. I have included a link to, oops, let's not open that, a link to historicgames.com, which has a copy of his book, and this is an exact translation. There's, I think, a Spanish version and an English version in there as well. And then Bell, for showing the last class, but I always like to show us off. This is an amazing book for anybody interested in games, or gaming rather. This is a Dover publication, and every time I mention that in having any laurels in the class, they all wince. But this edition was literally just republished by Dover because it is 2 volumes published together, but it wasn't changed or wasn't published by Dover initially. So it is a reliable source, even though it is a Dover publication. Couple pictures there. So this is just a sort of standard Alquerque board using red and black, but same idea. And then this is the picture from Alfonso's manuscript. I find it interesting that it uses pawns, and they seem to be the same color. That's the one weird thing I noticed about this picture is they're the same color. They didn't make any distinction of the pieces of the directional of each side having its own color, which could lead to supposition further of there was no sides. I know in playing what game was that? One of the, I think it's the like Chinese version of chess, Shoki or Shokai. There literally isn't. It's based on their facing of the pieces, because the pieces can switch sides. I'd be interested to see if that's the case in if you could do a variation of that where instead of having color, they were just directional facing, which is what it looks like in the picture, obviously, because of it's a top-down picture. It could also just be a mispaint, so to speak. And there's the references for those 2 pictures as well, located there. And that's that. So, oh, good. Okay, good. I always like to give the caveat with the Dover books. It came up in a project when we do an A&S project I did where I had a Laurel who was unfamiliar. Yes, Shogi, thank you. Yes, that's a game I was thinking of. It's in my list of classes to work on. Just haven't gotten to it yet. When I mentioned when they were looking at my resources and they saw this Dover book, and the Laurel was like, it's a Dover book, I don't trust it. And I was like, okay, well, sure. This is like my first second A&S project ever, so I had no clue. Fortunately, I had another Laurel sitting there who also had done a lot of work in games and went, no, really, it's fine. This is a good book. Let's, and was able to sort of talk her back off the ledge of failing me, so to speak, based on my bad references. But because it is an uncommon reference, I do like to give that caveat of it is not as bad as it may seem. So, all right, let me unshare that and then reshare a tab here. Give me a moment. Okay, got it. There it is. Cool. All right. So ordinarily when I did these games, I would have like I said, I'd have a guest on here. We'd play this game for a little bit. I've included this link, so feel free to play with yourself, or if you have people in your house, you can play with them. But I'm gonna do some play here. I'm gonna actually do this with 2 players, so I can show you some of the movements before I go into the actual game, because the computer moves really fast on this one. So I don't want to get lost in the movement. I'm not sure how bad the lag is going to be between the screen share and the stream, but we'll see. All right, so in this case, I've got it set to white begins and black's on top. I don't really see a difference. In this case, it's which color I want to play. But we will do black on top, white on bottom, with white beginning. So your first move is always going to be one of these 2 pieces into the empty square. And you'll see when you click on this, the piece lights up and moves. We're going to go there. Now, this now forces a movement. Now, with this game, you can't not jump. It won't let you. So, for instance, if I were to click this piece here, it tells me, oh, you guys can't see that. Awesome. So a little alert pops up saying you cannot move this piece. Because I've got it linked to the tab. It doesn't show the alerts popping up, but there's a little alert that pops up that says I cannot move it. Also realize I keep looking over here and the camera's up there. I really got to get better about that, because my face is over here, so I look over here as if I'm talking to myself in the camera, and you guys are up here. I'm a professional, guys, I swear. I do this for a living. But in this case, we have a forced movement. So I have to move this piece, and I have to jump it to there. So this is again what I was talking about. There are lots of forced movements. Now, I now also don't have a choice. So I, being the white player, have to choose this piece and have to jump it to there, again, taking that piece. Now, this is our first choice we get to make as the black player. We have this piece that can move, this piece that can move, and then these two over here. I'm sure there are some decent strategies about this that I don't know about. I was never that great at the peg game either, so those of you who are good at the peg game, you're going to be really good at playing this game. Although you may be bad at playing the game if you're trying to move all the pieces, but, you know. So what you want to look at is trying to find ways to make your opponent jump you so that you can jump them more than once. So, for instance, I'm going to do this. Now, this forces me to be jumped. So me as a white player, I have to jump the black player with this piece. This now allows the black player to take this piece and jump twice. All right? So force movement caused a double jump to happen. We now have, so me as a white player, I'm now losing to myself. Again, that's expected. I'm terrible at this game. So we're going to... Oh, I'm actually going to return the favor, looks like, so I can move that to there. The black player now has to jump there to there. I now get to jump from my bottom right corner to the middle of the board to the side. Look, we've now tied it up. Oh, so now the black player gets to make a move, hopefully to... I know it looks like we have force movement as well. So let's see, we've got that force movement, and that should be it. Yep. So we have to jump to there. And now the white player has to jump as well. But I do have choices. I can jump this piece or this piece. I'm going to jump this piece because it will be the least, because I won't get jumped afterwards. Jumping to the center. Black player now has a forced movement over here. So a lot of times like that. So that actually, I was going to lose a piece either way, no matter which piece I want to lose. I probably should have chose the other one, frankly. But again, not good at this game. So black moves to the corner. And then we look at, okay, so no forced movements there. So no jumping there. No forced movement jumping there. So we can now move something. Now, if I move this piece out, it would cause a double jump. So we don't want to do that. I move this piece to there. It does keep me safe from that, so that's good. If I move this piece to anywhere else, I'm safe. And if I move this piece, I'm safe. So I'm going to move this up. This is where we're starting to get, so the later game, so obviously the first part of the game, you have a lot of force movement in one piece, then causes sort of a less choices. As you get into the later game here, now I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 moves I can make from 6 different pieces. Only one of them would cause a jump to happen. So I am going to restart this and play with the computer. Now we've got some understanding. Again, if you have any questions about things I did or why I did a certain thing, please let me know. I'm going to turn level 1 computer on so maybe I can win. Let's go. Bloop. All right, so restarting. I'm the white player moving first. All right, I move to there, and black jumps as expected. I jump back to center. No. So the question was asked, even though the lines are diagonal, you can only move left or right or up or down, depending on where you are on the board. No. You can still also use the diagonal lines as well. Maybe I just didn't, I guess. I will try to pay attention to that. I've maybe noticed that it seems to be advantageous to move along the diagonals later in the game. Early game, a lot of the forced movement is orthogonal. All right. As expected, black moves to there. I jump up. He double jumps. All right. Now I will... So like I could move this one here, Wanda. I can move this one along the diagonal there. but I don't want to, I don't think. No, I don't want to. I want to move that. Forces that. Now I get the double jump. He jumps me once. Cool, cool. This game looks identical. It's like I knew what I was doing. Jump that. Oh! See, I missed the double jump there. See, okay, so I moved the piece forward. I was like, oh, I'm going to do something different this time. Just see what it does. And sure enough, I missed the double jump over there. So put him in my bottom right corner to the bottom left corner. And notice I'm already losing to the level 1 computer. All right. So I don't want to move diagonally there because that would have me be jumped. So let's not do that. Again, same there. I don't want to move that. So we're going to move diagonally from here to there. All right, so I have to jump. So I jump there to there. It's going to cause me to lose 1. If I move there to there, again, causing me to lose 1. So we're going to do that. Oh! Oh. See, this is the problem with the diagonals. I missed that. So yeah, so it jumped there, and then across the diagonal, and then across the, then back up. Yeah, I'm sure you all saw that and are all laughing at me now. And I appreciate you not laughing at me in, in the comments. Oh, all right. Well, I have terribly lost because my only movements now are to move that there or that there, both of which will cause me to lose a piece. So we'll do that. And then I have to move this, and then I'm just going to play runaway for a minute until that happens, and then I'm done. And black is now 1. It tells me that on my screen. You guys can't see that, fortunately. So click OK, and we'll start again. Now let's do with black beginning. No, I appreciate you not laughing at me, Simon. I know you are. I don't appreciate you lying to me. I know it's laughing. I'm laughing at me. All right, so we got black moving first. I'll continue to delay the white player. So black moved in. I will jump. First post game will look very similar because it's like there's only so many movements you can actually make. Let's see here. Let's do something different. Let's go up from there. Jumps into that corner. That's fine. Oh, that was... All right, guys. Pro tip. Before you play board games on camera, have more coffee. Apparently, 2 cups is not enough. Pro tip. Or in case, what is it? Basic night stuff, except I'm not a knight, so basic gamer stuff. There you go. Basic gamer stuff. Drink more coffee. All right, let's see. Let's see if I can play catch up here. All right, we're going to not move that. We're going to not move that. We're going to not move that. So we're going to not move that. Move that one. Okay. So forced movement to there, which causes forced movement to there. Oh, this is terrible. Dude. Okay, we're good there. That's at least safe for a minute. Why am I seeing war games on my... You know, it's a good thing that I'm not playing war games because I would be losing. We would all be nuked by now if I was playing war games. Oh, no, I don't want to do it. Fine. Double jump. Guys, did I mention I was terrible at this game? There's a diagonal movement for you, Wanda. So there to there, diagonal movement. All right. And I'm going to lose a piece, probably. Nope, cannot move. Okay, so I have to move. Oh, neat. All right, so we have force movement from there to there, and then from there to there. But that's going to cause him to double jump me as well. Gives me 1 piece to move. Okay. And I jump that, and that's game. So there you go. That's me losing twice. So I don't know. There may be an advantage. Yeah. That. So there may be an advantage to going first. I haven't found it yet. we always talk about, like, in fighting, controlling the tempo of the game, controlling the, and in chess talks about it as well, that the player that's one ahead, there's always a move ahead, has the advantage. So going first often gives you an advantage. I'm sure that's the case in this, but because of the forced movement early on, the first 3 or 4 moves of this game are planned. There's sort of 2 options you take, and then there's 2 options from that. Once you get past that, it opens up a little more. But they're very much as a tree, a decision tree to follow of what moves are made. But again, that's why I'm not a huge fan of this game. I enjoy playing it from a games like this are fun when there's 2 people playing, and then it becomes a ooh, I haven't done that. So wanted to ask, have a setup so the computer plays itself? I haven't. Let's, you know what? We've got time. All right, so we're gonna do black computer, white computer. We'll do them both on level 2. New. It's like a movie. I wish I could control the speed of this because it'd be easier to see. Oh, look. Oh, interesting. Okay. That was an interesting move. Boop, boop. So notice in the bottom right corner, they're just doing the, so it's moving back and forth because that's like the logical movement. To stay away from them forces black to come to you. However, with Bell's rules, that wouldn't be possible. So you could not move that piece back where you'd have to move something else. And that's probably why Bell had that rule to keep this sort of stall from happening. So we're now down to 5 and 2 pieces, and they're essentially at a stalemate. They're at 92 moves now. I think I got to 31 earlier, so big difference in game thing. Wow, this is going to go on forever. Awesome. Oop, 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 oop. We're getting somewhere. No, maybe not. All right. Oh, there it is. There it is. Okay, so there was a move. I don't think it's going to be possible for that one piece to get all 4. I just don't see it happening. It's too easy for black to set the trap on it. Black's going to lose a piece, but all he's got to do is force moving into there. There's no way for me to control the speed of this one. That's one of the complaints I had about this game. I can't control the speed. That's why I played myself earlier, so it was easy for you to see. There it goes. So, look, guys, even playing the computers, I still lost. It's terrible. Yeah. So Simon mentions, yeah, no, I agree. This game and Nyman's Morris, or there's another game that are called what they call mathematically solved games. So like chess, there are a 1,000 bajillion types of moves you can make, and whereas yes, there is a logical move response that is the best move. In Alquerque, in Nyman's Morris, and games like that, where there is a limited number of movements that can be made, there is it is a solvable game by a computer. So with this, there is going to be if 2 experienced players or 2 computers, in this case, that were playing perfectly. So I wonder if I cranked it up to 3, how long it would take. It took 190, almost 190 moves. That if you played perfectly, there is literally no way to win. For either player. So yes, 2 experienced players would play to a stalemate because they're never going to make a mistake. It takes a mistake to lose, generally. Which says something about me that I keep losing. In fact, I taught Keith how to play yesterday, and she beat me in my first game. I had been playing this game for a day or better, at least, practicing, trying to figure out different things. And I played her once and still lost. So clearly I am not an experienced player. Although Kisa beats me at lots of things occasionally, like I'm really good at games, and she will beat me handily at most games I play, especially if I play them on camera. So, anyways, cool. So yeah, there you go. So that was 2 level 2 computers playing, and black was first player and won. So that's interesting to see. You know what? Let's do something different. Hold on. If you guys don't mind, let's let that play through. So this is white beginning with the same two computers playing. I'm curious if it's going to be, if the white player will win on this one, just to see if there's a difference. See if it's always going to be the beginning player that wins. It looks like it, because this looks like the exact same game. Ooh, wow, no. Different game. Wow. Okay. Interesting. But yeah, white is still going to win, though. There is literally no way, I think, for that one black piece to... Ooh, game. All right, so there you go. So that's only 92 moves that time, so 100 moves less. But white as the beginning player still won. So it does seem to be that the beginning player does have the advantage. Now this is a very small data set, obviously, but there you go. All right, guys. You've been amazing. Thank you for talking. I always appreciate when people come to these games, these classes, and actually leave comments and kind of have conversations amongst themselves. Makes them a lot more interesting. A couple things. First, so if you're interested in what I'm doing, I do have a whole bunch more games that I'm working on. My channel, which you've already found here, Kalbardr's Corner, has 4 other videos up already from a previous event that I hosted. Please go take a look at those. Enjoy them. I don't know what Atlantia's rules are about virtual classes and digital classes and how those work. If you'd like to have credit for them, you're welcome to have credit for them. Let me know if I need to do something to help you get credit for them. In Meridies, I have a sign-in sheet. You can, so if you want to get credit for the Royal University of Meridies, you're welcome to do that as well. The sign-in sheet is on my Facebook, which is Kalbardr's Corner. Again, right there, Kalbardr's Corner. Look it up on Facebook. Also, kalbardrscorner.com, all one word, .com, will be up soonish. I'm waiting for my web minister to finish building stuff because I'm not a web designer. But it'll be there. I'll have all my handouts, all my research information, projects I worked on. I'm going to set up a sort of a blog post where I do things about events once we start having events again. Please like, follow, subscribe to this channel. Helps me sort of boost the volume of people that are seeing it. Share it to your friends, share it to your loved ones. There will be more than just games classes coming up. I've got heraldry things. I've got some current Middle Ages stuff, protocol and precedence, honor and courtesy, things like that, SCA structure, you know. I'm considering doing a medieval book club at some point. If you're interested in teaching classes but don't have the technological capacity to like do all the fancy stuff that I'm doing with videos and poking the buttons, let me know. I'm more than happy to host classes for you. Sort of play moderator and, you know, let you do the teaching, but I'll do all the button pushing. I'd love to have more content for the things in different realms that I don't teach. Oh, cool! Thank you for subscribing. And just, you know, yeah, let me know, guys. All of you should have got an email from me earlier, kalbardr.geiler@gmail.com. You know, I get all the branding together. Email me back if you have any questions or comments, or leave comments on this video later. I will be, this uploads directly to YouTube, so you can watch it again if you'd like. So, all of that being said, let me poke this button right. There we go. I have been Lord Kalbardr Geiler, and I continue to be Lord Kalbardr Geiler, I suppose, at least for a little bit. And this has been Kirk or Alquerque in Kalbardr's Corner. Thanks, guys.